Hello, welcome back to All For United WFC. Michael, your comments just made me laugh just as I was about to do that intro. But there we go. As you can see, we're later than usual, and we're still late going live. So half an hour late, and then 6 minutes after the time that we were going to say. But it wouldn't be an All For United show without that, would it? So we've got to be only 6 minutes. Yeah, it's bad, really, isn't it? Which we make a joke of it, but it's poor. Is it punctuant? That's not a word. You know what I mean?
Punctuality.
Yes, that's the word. I was going for something that wasn't a word, but there we go. But as you can see, got Karis with me, as people will know. However, we finally managed to get another debutant on. So, Georgia, thank you for coming on. It's been a long time coming. The wage demands on Georgia, trying to get her on here, trying to sort the contract out to get her on. Terrible. But thank you for joining us. How are you doing over there?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. Good to be on. On the other side, I'm normally in the comments chatting along with everyone.
I was just about to say that. You're now seeing it from the other side. So taking the mick out of me in the comments, you can now do it on screen, which is something new. Hello to all of you in the chat as well. And get all your comments and your thoughts in, as always. Maybe. we're on time somewhere in the world, but I don't know. That's a good comment. I like that. Or any rail, to be fair, because I think most of them are delayed these days.
You joke, but do you know why we're late? Because my train was delayed. So it actually was not our fault.
There we go. See? It's blame it on the rail systems in the UK. We'll get into all that. But anyway, we're going to talk about Newcastle to start with. I know it says Crystal Palace preview and things like that, but this is the first show since Newcastle, so we're going to talk about that. An 8-goal game, which is not something... I don't think many fans went to that game expecting to see 8 goals. Certainly not 3 conceded, considering we've only conceded 3 all season and 3 in that game. So quite something. But we did have a few first goals for the club and all that kind of thing. So George, I will just quickly start with you and just your thoughts on the game overall, to be honest, before we dive into some of the individual players and things like that, which we'll talk about over the course of the show. But just your thoughts going away from the game. So I don't think many expected a 5-3 in that one.
Definitely wouldn't have put money on 5-3, especially conceding 3. Like you said, we've conceded 3 in the whole of the league this year, and then 3 in the last Conti Cup League Cup game. But no, I thought there was positives to take. It was good to see Emma getting her start and first goal for the club. I was impressed with her performance overall. Gabby again, good to see her get her first goal for the club, and obviously since she's done her ACL. It was a mixed performance, I think, but overall we got the job done in the end and through to the quarterfinals for the draw on Monday.
I think that's the key thing, is getting the job done. I think that's what I've heard a lot since Wednesday. I mean, Karis, for yourself, I'm actually asking the same kind of question. I know you weren't able to catch the full game, but I mean, when you got back and saw that scoreline, is that kind of what you were expecting? Because I mean, it's a lot of goals conceded. However, it was a bit of a rotated team. There were new players in there, and obviously Saf getting her first team debut as well, as Sporty's put there. That was obviously great for her. A couple of first goals in there as well, as I said. So can we look too much into it, or do you think it's just one of those where there was not really any pressure on the game, so it was just one of those?
I think there's a few from the goals that I saw, which was all of them. I saw the goals. Like they were goals that I wouldn't expect us necessarily to concede. Like, I mean, Newcastle, I would talk about them like we talked about them last year. Like, they're growing in quality. They're probably they'll probably be in the WSL within the next couple of years. They are a good side, but with that being said, we can't be in a position where we're letting like individual moments of quality get away from us to the extent of 3 goals. So I think that was what's concerning for me. Like, the 3 goals that we conceded, it wasn't so much the goals as the chances that were it's just that little bit of like, I don't know, possibly it's the fact it's a 3-game week, possibly it was heavy rotation, but it was just a little bit kind of looser than I would have liked on closing down chances and things like that. Also, I think it is like worth mentioning, we were heavily rotated, but we did also have our 2 first-choice centre-backs starting. So, and it wasn't as if all the chances came from down the wings, I don't think. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think quite a lot of it did come down the middle. So that is something I think it's just to be like conscious of. I'm not going to start writing like essays about it or anything, because I don't think it's a cause for concern particularly. But I do think it's just to be wary of, and it's just about not letting our standards drop even in like League Cup games. And I think the whole squad would probably agree that we don't want that. I think it's just a bit of the like rotation creeping in, creating a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of, okay, this is probably a pretty like comfortable game, so maybe we'll be all right, and we just let our guard down a little bit. But with that said, also at the other end, like credit to us for scoring 5 goals, right? Like for Emma getting her first goal is fantastic. Nice. I will never complain. I would much rather that we had made the rotations we did and the changes that we did and had a slightly less comfortable victory than played our first choice 11 and won like 6-0 or whatever. Because, you know, where's the fun in that? Like, we want to see young players starting in the League Cup.
I think that's it. And I think the fact that we were essentially already through anyway, I don't think it really mattered too much. I think barring like a massive goal swing, like if we'd have lost like 6-0 or something, I think we were essentially through anyway. A point would have definitely guaranteed that, and obviously a win did guarantee it in the end. And I'm just trying to find what the lineup is because it's only been 2 days and I can't even remember who it was. But yeah, you mentioned someone's just asked there. Kevin just asked, you didn't see it, but Dom and Millie, this is something we've been calling for, obviously with Dom at centre back. But we were giving away a few chances. I don't know whether that's because of it being slightly changed and everything else, but it didn't look as comfortable. But I would argue, and this is maybe a controversial viewpoint, that I think we've been doing that all season, but Fallon's just been bailing us out. And I think, you know, everything about United this season, great defensively. I don't think we actually have been great defensively. I think we've given up a lot of chances. You know, you look at, I know people have got a mixed view on XG and things like that, but our expected goals against is, I think it's like 10 point something, and we've only conceded 3. That shows you we're conceding a lot of chances and, you know, and everything else. But Fallon's kind of bailing us out of those things. So, I mean, George, have you got anything to add on that one? Because like I said, we've all been saying this. We want Dom at centre-back. Mayer was obviously pushed out to the right. But did you think there was anything better in terms of the back line? Because it's kind of what we've been hoping for. But
yeah, not necessarily in that game. I personally would like a centre-back partnership of Mayer and Janssen. I think if you're looking at our centre-backs, that would be our strongest partnership. Obviously, that would need time to grow and develop. But saying about the chances we gave up, Newcastle's first goal, I think it was Deanna Cooper, just picked the ball up in midfield and ran through about 6 or 7 United players and then took a shot that we probably shouldn't be conceding on goal, let alone to then let them equalise from it. But for me, Janssen is a centre-back and should be. Not a huge fan of where we're playing her at the minute, but in that game, that was obviously the rotation. Like Keris mentioned, I'd rather have rotation, or Janssen normally plays, but with other players. And then rather than win 6-0, we're still through, and a lot of players got minutes that we're not giving them in the league at the minute.
I think if you're going to try out a partnership, this is the way to do it. Like, well, from people know my thoughts, I'd have gone for Mayer and Dom from the start of the season, but we're not seeing that, so that's fine. It's what it is. Mark, if you're watching, just maybe in the new year, new team, you know, maybe a bit of Dom and Mayer at centre back. We'll see. Maybe one day. I mean, it won't be, but you know, one could hope. It's been a while. What's it been? A couple of years, because we obviously last year we had the Villa scandal. The year before, we just didn't make it through. So yeah, it's been a couple of years. I can't remember who we played in the. Of course, I do. It was Arsenal, the Alessia Russo late winner down at Boreham Wood for us 15 fans that made the trip down to that game, because this was pre-Euros, and I remember that because I'm not even exaggerating. I think there was about 15 United fans there for that game. It was really quiet, but there we go. Yes, I'll come back to this actually, Highland. I'm going to start that and come back to it because I want to come back to the cup things as a whole. Andrew's made the point there about Newcastle have improved. They definitely have, you know, and that wasn't even Newcastle's strongest team either. You know, they've got a couple of players out injured and things like that at the moment. So they're a decent team. It worries me a little bit that we gave up as many chances as we did, but yeah, I'm not too thinking on that one. Keris, I'll come to you then on Emma. I'm not going to go through every single goal because we'll be here forever if we go through all 8 of them, but I want to focus on Emma's in particular because it's her first goal. Should have had 2, really. I said to somebody afterwards that her first one that got blocked off the line was an easier shot than the one she scored from, because she had the whole goal pretty much to aim at, and she hit it at the one place where the Newcastle defender was stood. Whereas the second one, obviously, she puts that one away as well. What have you made of her in these two kind of, I guess, games overall? She's getting her chance now. That's 2 starts for her in the League Cup. She's come on in the league now recently as well. But to get her goal, she's already opened up her account now. And yeah, just on her overall game and the goal in particular.
Yeah, I think I've liked what I've seen. She's playing with the confidence that you want to see from. I think we see a lot of young players come in and their first game, they have a mistake or they have a slip up, and you see how much it can knock their confidence. And then that can, whether fairly or not, leads to them not being given those opportunities in the next game. I've really liked the confidence that Emma has come in with. I think you can see that in the way that she took on her goal. I've been really pleased with her so far, to be fair. I think she definitely, I probably wouldn't be like putting her in to start in the league or anything like that in most games, but I think that she needs development still. But I really like the sort of energy and the determination in 50-50s on loose balls as well. I think she's a very determined player. And I really like that. I mean, like, it's the very sentimental United fan in me that I really like, a sort of determined, passionate young player who will chase after the ball and go into 50-50s like hammer and tongs and win the ball. I've really liked seeing that from her so far. So yeah, I've been really pleased with what I've seen.
No, absolutely. And I think we need more Scots in the team, personally, but that's a personal agenda that I'm going to keep pushing. We did have a few, but I wouldn't have those X ones back, I don't think, with how they get on. George, what do you make of Emma Watson? I said, got the goal. I think we texted each other at the time in the game that first one, how that was blocked on the line and kind of scuffed away. So she could have had 2 on the night, but she kind of played in a few positions. She was a bit deeper at times. She played in the 10 for the majority of the game. Then she was on right wing in the second half because of the subs that were made as well. So she's very versatile, and she does that for Scotland as well in terms of where she plays. She's played striker for Scotland a few times as well, so she can do it in terms of those multiple positions. But what did you make of her in the game and obviously the goal itself?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Emma. And sort of what you were saying about dropping deeper, of what Keris said as well, if the game isn't where she's at, she's not scared to go deeper and go and get the ball and go into them 50-50s. But I think you can see it so much when she plays, she's so attacking minded. And I love that about her. She's not, she sees the passes, she's not scared to play it forward. And again, like Keris was saying about her confidence, if she misplaces a pass or, general game stuff, it doesn't seem to knock her confidence, or she's happy to try it again. And obviously with her first shot on goal, Cataldo blocked it off the line, which was unfortunate, but made sure she was in the right position and made the right run for Maya then to slot the ball through for the second, which I thought was a lovely far post finish. But no, I'm a big fan of Emma and excited to hopefully see more of her in the team.
No, absolutely. As people know, I rate her incredibly high. I think her ceiling is ridiculously high in terms of the fact she can play multiple positions as well. I think, you look at her age, still developing, she's still going to get a lot better than she currently is, and she's already very good. So yeah, we've got a very exciting player there. And interesting to see what happens with her, whether we decide to loan her out now the Conti Cup. Now the League Cup, I'm going to keep doing that. Now the League Cup is kind of getting to the knockout stages. Whether she's still going to be that starter, I don't know. That's a question I'm going to come back to in a second in terms of the priority. Speaking of Emma, the player of the match poll is in the chat. 3 players have got votes, for 1 player hasn't got a vote yet. Can someone go and vote for Anna Sandberg? I'm not influencing the poll in any way, but can someone go and vote for her so she's got a vote, please? You can vote Emma Watson, Jace, Anna Sandberg, and Melvin Mallard. Yeah, they're your 4 names for this one. To vote on. Very quickly on Jason, because she's on the player of the match. I mean, George, I'm going to come back to you on her, because I think I messaged you at half time saying, I don't know whether I can say this on there, but she I don't know if I can repeat what I actually said, but she was taking the mick out of the Newcastle backline. I mean, the kind of that cross that she did put in for Melvin Mallard, and there was just times on the ball I'm watching her go, she's not taking this seriously. She's kind of just doing step-overs for the sake of doing it. And to be fair, I love that. I'd rather that, actually, because and the confidence in her this season. So I'm going to throw that question at you in terms of her performance in the first half, but I guess in recent weeks, do you think that confidence in her now that we're seeing the best side of it, albeit people can always say she doesn't score enough, she doesn't assist enough and whatever else, but she should have really had a couple of assists in this game if Williams could put the ball away, and Mallard obviously with that header as well that just went wide. There's 2 assists right there, so it's not always on her, I don't think. But yeah, what did you make of her first half? And again, do you see that extra confidence in her this season, particularly in the last few games?
Definitely. I mean, I think Joyce is such an exciting player. Even just to watch her, whether it's on TV or at games, she is, constantly trying stuff, and she is incredible down the wing and so exciting. And it will give, I believe, any defender in the league an absolute nightmare when she's on her day. But I think especially over the last couple of weeks and this season compared to last, we've seen a real different version of the player. I think she looks a lot more settled, a lot happier. And, I think you can, obviously coming from a different league, speaking a different language, I think integrating into the team was always going to be a little bit of a challenge and maybe take a bit longer. But I feel like now we've got there, what a player we've got. And we saw glimpses of that last season, but bringing it back into this Newcastle game, she was giving their defence absolute nightmares every time. They could not get hold of the ball, whether they were being nutmeg step overs, and then, just to add the cherry on the top, she goes round her and Rabona crosses it, which was so close to getting on Melbourne's head, which would have been goal of the season, done and sorted there. But no, I think she was our best player in the first. I was disappointed that she came off at half time, but I'm thinking that was I'm thinking that'll be because she's playing on Sunday, rest her legs. But no, really, really exciting and great performance. Like you said, should have had 2 assists if maybe we were a little bit more clinical on Wednesday.
No, I was so gutted she got taken off at half time, because I think I said to the people around me that because of where I stand in North Stand, Jace is obviously on the right, so she's always attacking the far side to where I'm stood. So in the second half of the Newcastle game, because of where I was in South, that was going to be my side right in front of me. And I thought it's going to be the first time this season I'm going to watch Jace up close in front of me, hooked at half time, so I don't get to see it. So that was a bit annoying. But I do understand, obviously, with 3 games in 7 days, you need to manage those minutes. But yeah, I agree, Maren. I think Jay's playing with swagger. I think she is, and it's, again, people can say what they want about her assists or goals or whatever else. I don't think you can deny the talent she had and drives the team forward every time she got the ball, particularly on Wednesday. George has mentioned it there, the Newcastle defenders being a bit more scared. She picked up the ball, the Newcastle backline dropped about 20 yards, thinking, right, hang on a bit, we don't want to go up to her. Let her kind of come to us, and then we'll deal with it then. And I think you need that in a team. You need a player that's going to be your out ball, rather than knocking it long all the time and trying to hold the ball up like Rach does or whatever. Jace is very good at driving the team forward 20, 30 yards, and that's exactly what Honor used to do on that right-hand side for us when we were most successful. Sorry, trigger warning on a name drop in there for you. Those of you still mourning over that one. Karis, have you got anything to add on Jace in particular? I know she didn't get a goal or an assist in this game, but just in general, kind of her this season and that confidence she's got.
I think I've gone back to my archive because I actually asked Mark Skinner about Jace in the press conference after the West Ham game at the start of the season. And he was saying how he feels like her confidence has grown so much. He said she came in with 4 or 5 days left of pre-season last year, didn't speak English. She's now in a space where she's like smiling. And if we have a Jace that is smiling, we're going to have a Jace that is deadly. And I think like he's actually been right. Like I think her confidence has gone up massively. It's in what you said. I think we have a lot of really high quality players, but we lack the players that I think the frustration sometimes we just see is like kicking it long to the striker and trying to hold it up, which sometimes it works, that kind of route one football, but sometimes it doesn't. So to have a player that can carry the ball like that and drive us up the pitch kind of in possession without risking that long ball through the air is so vital to us. And also like she's just so good to watch. Like I remember when she arrived last year, just like the first game where I was in the terrace at Lee and I saw her playing, I was just like, oh my God, like it's sort of like Ahmad on the men's side. When you have those it's usually a winger, let's be honest, that gets you like actually excited about watching the football again. Like rather than like scared, you're like, oh, like I actually really enjoy watching this player. I think for her, the key thing now is consistency. And I think that comes with confidence, to be fair, because I think she's a player where in the past we've seen just maybe her head drop a bit if things haven't gone the way she would have liked. But I think that now that she's more confident and more integrated into the team and the club and everything, she should be able to kind of build that confidence more easily, and hopefully the consistency kind of comes along with that. I think we've already seen that starting this season, so I'm excited to see her continue to develop.
No, I tend to agree with that, and I think it's exciting for us to have her. Obviously, Bizet's in form as well, although Bizet's obviously been off on the left side as well. But it's good to have those options now, I think, on that one. Sorry, I was reading this comment before I brought it up because I was worried what this was going to say. when you drag the whole Newcastle defence over to the right and then pass it. Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, right? Jace is very good at attracting players to her anyway, and it takes away from other players, other forwards, but it does drag the team about, which is something, again, like I said, that you need. Some of the I didn't realize we're already 20 minutes in, and we've not even touched on a couple of the questions I wanted to, and Palace as well yet. But I did want to ask, because obviously there was a debutant that we did get in obviously Saf Middleton's cell that we wanted to see, and I'm still we could have lost 6-0. I would have been happy that she was playing, to be honest, because I think she's earned that. Georgia, what did you make of her, I guess, performance? And I know this is a tricky question because there's been a lot of comments about this already about her and everything else. And the one thing I will just say on this as well, I think, no one is digging her out for anything now. She's a young keeper. Keeper is the hardest position to come through because you are you are the only. It's not like you can come on for 10 minutes at the end of a game or do any of that. But yeah, Georgia, what do you make of her? And I guess the secondary question to that, do you think now that it's probably time to send her off on loan again and get more experience playing, whether that's lower down the WSL, the Championship and things like that?
Yeah, so like you said, first of all, keeper, incredibly hard position to come through in. You are sort of just thrown in at the deep end. I was really happy she was starting. I was hoping that she would. If the rest of our group stage fixtures went this way, I was hoping that she'd get a start somewhere. I don't think, to be honest, she was helped out by our defence in this game. It was a little bit chaotic at times. It probably the goals we conceded weren't excellent goals to concede, and I think it's would be best to send Saf on loan to get more in-game experience where, she can grow and develop as a keeper, whether that be a Championship or a lower down in the WSL. But I think that's going to be really pivotal at this time now for her development because, with the WSL being such a small league, there isn't that many games and you just don't have the room for error in these games to drop points, and you lose a few games and you're out of the title race because there's teams that just won't drop that many points. So I would say it would be best to send her out on loan and really let her develop in that way. But really happy to see her make her debut, and congratulations to her.
Yeah, I mean, Keris, would you kind of echo that as well? Like, as Erden said, Ed's really happy to see her get a kind of first thing. Marin's obviously going for certainly the experience backup. I don't think it's any surprise. I've said in United, but that was the one that got away, I think, in the summer that United were after. I think they just left it a little bit too late with other transfers. Is that kind of what you're leaning towards in terms of, just happy that she got that start and maybe now alone is probably best for her to continue that development?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my primary instinct is just to be really pleased for her because I think she's still 20. Yeah, she's 20. Like, she's still very young, especially as keepers go. I think we forget, like, with the playing age sort of coming down and down and down all the time in terms of what age we expect to see players making that step up onto the pitch. I think it's always been older for female players and it's even older for female keepers, right? So I think, first of all, for her to be making that debut is incredibly promising. And I think that she's sort of like, I think she's at a point now where potentially, because of all the chat in the summer about kind of with Earps leaving and was Fallon, like, if Fallon's going to be our number one, is she ready to be the backup? I wonder if maybe some of that got to her. Like, we can speculate all we want, but we don't know at the end of the day. I think for her, she needs to obviously you could see she was upset at first after full time, which is really difficult. And no one who is a true fan ever wants to see that from any player, no matter if you think they've had a completely shocking performance. You don't want to see that. I think the key thing for her now is just like maybe taking some of that pressure off, because like George says, the WSL is such a short season. Like you don't really have any games where you can be like, unless you're like Chelsea or something, you don't have many games where you've got a comfortable gap that you can kind of bring your backup keeper on to build their confidence. I think a loan is probably the best move for her. I think on loan, I think it was Watford last season. I think that really helped to develop her confidence, because ultimately it's so hard to break through as a keeper, because to break through in any position, you need game time. And in the WSL, you're just not going to rotate your keeper enough for that. So I think a championship loan would be really, really beneficial to her. And I just think she really needs to keep her head up, because it was a tough game to go into. She wasn't helped by the defence. I think she was probably feeling the pressure a bit. And I think that she's got so much ahead of her that she should really just have a head up and be looking forward to that and looking forward to building on that performance.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And I think it was obviously not nice to see it full time. But what I will say, I think credit to the players. At full time, Fallon essentially just sprinted over to her. Almost as soon as the whistle went, to obviously make sure that she was all right. And seeing that at the end, obviously with a lot of the players around her, was nice to see as well. Because I think she should have. I think she will go on and have a good career. She's clearly a good goalkeeper. But I think, whether that's going to be at United in a few years, I'm not too sure at the moment. But yeah,
and I think the sort of the calling for her to go out on loan, from anyone who's calling for her to go out on loan, isn't like we don't want her playing for us. It's we want her to develop, because I think a WSL club is potentially not always the best playing backup keeper in a WSL club is probably one of the most like psychologically challenging roles that I think you can have, right, as backup keeper. And I think that that's a very difficult position to put a 20-year-old in. She just needs that. She's got the ability. I think she just needs to build the confidence. Like the calling for her to go out on loan is not to do with a lack of faith in her eventual ability. It's faith in her ability to develop.
Yeah, no, exactly. And as you both said, not helped out by the defence, which I thought was a bit all over the place, making errors kind of here, there and everywhere. And when I say the defence, by the way, I mean the midfield as well. The team defensively was shocking, I thought. Particularly the midfield. I think that was Ladd and Simi, I thought, had really, really poor games when they were on. But yeah. Right, we're nearly half an hour in, and I want to come to I've got a couple of quick fiery questions here, and it is tied to the Newcastle game a little bit. And I have started some of your comments, by the way, in the chat. Jay, I will come back to your question as well. Highland put here about Wales, and obviously Saf likely wanted to be in that squad. That ties me into our other Welsh representative in the United squad, because many do believe, potentially, that could have been Hayley Ladd's last feature, or certainly last start for Manchester United, with the January window approaching, with Wales now in the Euros, and her not playing really at all. And she has spoken openly about potentially looking away in the summer, the summer just gone, and things like that. So a quick question to you both. George, I'll start with you first. Do you think that was probably one of the last times we see Hayley Ladd? And if so, how have we got here from having one of our best midfielders potentially walking out this January?
I would probably say it would be the last time we see her at LSV in a United shirt anyway. Not quite sure how we got there from her being such a pivotal part of our midfield. I still think she's one of the best midfielders we have at the club. I think she is quality and class when she's on the pitch. But like we said, with Wales qualifying, that is incredible, and she will want to be in that squad. She will want to be playing football, and at the minute she's just not, and I can't see that changing with us at the minute, which is such a shame. But I would say that would be the last time we see her if I had to bet on it.
Maybe we should get some pity minutes. We should get a pity minutes on Sunday, like 2 minutes at the end or something. Because I was just actually trying to double check how many minutes she's had in the WSL this season. It's low, I know that. So I was just double checking how many it is. Matches played 2 minutes 7. There you go, 7 whole minutes she's had in WSL this season, and we're 9 games in. So I would be amazed if we see her on Sunday as well. Keris, is that kind of what you're into? The reason I asked this question, I'm not starting any rumours or doing any of that kind of thing, but the speculation was there in the summer. Wales have now qualified. The Welsh manager has already come out and spoke about Ladd needing to play, to retain obviously a position and everything else. To me, this just makes sense that she would probably move in January.
Yeah, I think it makes me really sad. Like Becky said in the chat, like my face, because I would be so sad to see her go. She's a player that I absolutely love. She's one of them players where you look back on the game and you go, do you know who actually didn't put a foot wrong today? Hayley Ladd. Like in most of the games, especially in the 22-23 season, I thought she was such an underrated part of that season. She was just, not underrated by a lot of fans, but underrated sort of generally maybe in the media. I thought she didn't get enough recognition for the role she played. One of my all-time favourite football life moments will always be the goal that she scored against City at LSV that summer. That was just like a core footballing memory. So I'll be really sad to see her go, but at the same time, it does make sense with the Euros coming up. In case anyone couldn't tell from my name being Keris Jones, I am also quite invested in seeing her get minutes so that she's in a position to step in for the Welsh squad as well. It would be a real shame for her to miss out on that opportunity, because I don't know how old she is now, but I doubt that she would probably get the chance to go to another major tournament with Wales. Because realistically, I don't want to say they won't qualify for the World Cup, but I think it would be fair to say they are underdogs to qualify for the World Cup. So you're looking at 8 years down the line at this point. So this is probably her last chance at a major tournament. And if she really wants to move, it's hard to blame her. We'd be sad to see her go, I think. But she's got a lot of competition in that kind of defensive midfield role now. And I think it's the right thing for her. Whether it's the right thing for the club, we've got players who can step into that role and indeed have stepped into that role, right? Hence her lack of minutes. But it feels a huge shame.
Yeah, I agree. I still stand by. I think her and Hinney, are our two, and Clinton now, actually. There you go. There's my midfield for anyone who's asking. Hinney, Clinton, and and Ladd, because I think that's the best. Technically, it's balanced, and it's a shame, really. But we'll see. I'm not starting anything. As I said, we'll wait and see in January. She may end up staying, but I just think for her, if I was her, I'd be pushing to move, to be honest, because she's not going to be played. Someone asked whether cup games are going to be enough. We saw it in the FA Cup last season. We didn't really rotate all that much in the FA Cup. I would imagine that's going to be the same this year. And the League Cup, now we're in the quarterfinals. Depending on who we get, we might be going for, you're talking 3 games at the absolute max, by now and the end of the season. And that's if we get to the final. So I don't think that's enough.
No, I can't see us rotating much in either cup competition, to be honest. Maybe against, no disrespect to West Brom, but maybe against lower tier teams like West Brom. But I think that from the club's point of view, we're already slipping behind the pace in the title race. We are still very much in the race for top 3, fortunately, but our best chance of silverware is by far and away the FA Cup or the League Cup, and it would be very, very silly to not be prioritising those and putting a strong team forward in those. So I can't actually see us rotating that much in the Cups.
No, exactly. Truth, I see your comment. He's not in the comments tonight, but someone did say that Ladd was championship level. Absolutely not. And if you're watching this back, you know you are. I still really like you. You're a good person, but I cannot get on board with that. That comment. Anyway, right, let's quickly move on to Palace. I'm going to come back to the kind of League Cup right at the end because we are going to do player of the match and wrap that one up. But I want to quickly come on to Palace because that's why we're here. Last game of 2024, which is, I hate saying that. It's so sad, isn't it? Last game of 2024. And then we've got a big, what is it? Just under a month until the next game. So, George, to start with you, just your thoughts, really. Palace on Sunday. I'm assuming you're not nervous, or are you? What's your kind of thoughts ahead going into this one?
Oh, always a little bit nervous. But no, generally we should absolutely be walking away with 3 points. Palace have struggled coming up. I mean, they're bottom of the league, but they are joint on points with Leicester. But they've scored 8 and conceded 25. So, yeah, 7 of them were in one game to Chelsea, obviously, but they all add up. They're just, they've conceded 32% of all their goals, 80 plus minutes. So game management. But I think this is a game where we can really use to build, players. We're talking about players like Jace, who her confidence is going up and up. A game like Palace, I think she'll give them defenders headaches, and it's a game that I'm looking forward to. I think we are behind Arsenal only on goal difference, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to. I'm not sure who they've got this weekend, but we should be able to put a few past Palace. I haven't watched too much of Palace this season, but from what I have seen, I think we should be okay on Sunday.
You'd like to think so, Michael. I was just quickly laughing at this. I couldn't find a Palace person full stop, let alone expert. There's not too many of them, to be honest. About maybe for the reverse fixture, I'll try. It's been a busy week. We've had 3 games this week, or 2 games in the last few days already. It's been a bit busy, but no, we couldn't. It's a short answer, but shouldn't be complaining. Look who we've got. We've got a debutant in Georgia and Keris, who you all love anyway. It's still a good, solid panel to talk about it. But Keris, you have watched a bit of Palace this season. Are you nervous, excited? What's your thoughts going into it?
I am not nervous, and I do say that as someone who, weirdly, just for reports and stuff, I've watched a fair few of Palace's games. And I actually really like them as a team. They're one of those teams. I tend to get kind of attached to the teams that are in the relegation battle pretty much every year. Like last year, I really wanted Bristol to stay up because I really liked watching them. This year, I kind of really want Palace to stay up because I've enjoyed watching their games in spells. I think they've been inconsistent, is a big problem for them. They've had games where they've been able to grind out a point, like they got a point against Liverpool, like point against Everton. They took Villa like pretty far. But then there's also the times, that, the 7-0, 6-0, 7-0 against Chelsea, like that was bad. I think our best bet, it sounds really brutal, but the best bet is to be as ruthless as we possibly can be. I think, how we scored 2 on the bounce against Liverpool and just knocked them for 6 and they didn't really get back into the game very much. I think if we score 2 against Palace in the first half, then we could hit high numbers against them. I'm not jinxing it. I'm saying if, but I do think they're a good team. They have some really quality players. Annabelle Blanchard is really good to watch. They've also got a lot of like kind of good youngsters as well who are like out on loan developing. Who am I thinking of? Like I think it's Lily Potter, India Page Riley, Lily Woodham, maybe. I think that they've got a lot of youngsters who are developing really well with them, and they're getting that kind of valuable loan experience that we've talked about. They've also got the experienced heads in there, like Katie Stengels. But again, I think it's just consistency. A lot of these players, like Stengels, for instance, the goals that she has scored, she's shown that ability, but I think they have struggled for consistency. I think the key is going to be just not doing what we did against Newcastle and just giving away chances we don't need to give away. I think if we can get the sort of lead on them relatively early, I think this game should be fairly comfortable. But with that said, I don't want us going into it treating it like it's 3 guaranteed points, which I know we say we never do, but even subconsciously, I think we do sometimes. So I'm not nervous, but I am aware that you can't write them off going into a game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Malcolm makes a point here. Palace are going to turn into 1970s Brazil, which is usually the way it goes. Because as Amanda commented a bit further up, we were saying all this before the Villa game that we were going to be battering them. It was going to be a nice, easy game, and we ended up drawing 0-0 with our lowest shots on goal and everything. So let's maybe not do that. And to make you more nervous, guys, just a very quick stat for you: our last 4 trips to London in the WSL, we haven't won any of them.
Oh, Connor, that's not the
so-
same thing. That's not a real stat. That's like when someone
is.
goes, "Oh, the last." No, okay, but it's like when someone goes, "Oh, the last few times that you played them on a Wednesday, you didn't win." I don't care. That's not a real statistic. It doesn't have any bearing on anything. Like, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions.
Right, I'm going to try and find a positive one for you now. Let's see if you like the stat that I'll bring for a second. What have we got here? Okay, there we go. United have a perfect 10 out of 10 record against newly promoted teams. So there you go. And we've only conceded one, scoring 29 against newly promoted teams in the WSL. So there's a quick stat for you. That's a positive one that you might like. But yeah, there we go. So you know we love a good stat on here. This hang about. That wasn't my fault. That was the fault of Box Park being so expensive that I was never buying anything there. So there we go. Yeah, see, I love me good stats, Becky. I got them all. Come prepared for these things, these days. So you know what my next question was going to be. Right, I want to come to the kind of what team we would be looking towards in terms of from a United point of view. But before we kind of look at the broader team, one position in particular, because I'm curious now, which one is it? Because someone's gone for Honor Sandberg. Jade has gone for Anna Battier. So which one is it? Are we going for Honor first name or are we going for Honor name in terms of that one? But, Georgia, the question I want to ask is that left back slot, obviously with Sandberg and Gabby George. I would imagine it's going to be Gabby George, but I want to entertain the question anyway. Who would you be playing at left back? Because Sandberg has certainly impressed when she's played. Gabby's been relatively solid as well, got her first goal on Wednesday night. Who would you be starting at left back in this one?
In this one, I would start Sandberg. I think she offers, her pace going down the wing on the left side. Adds a lot of attacking, and I think hopefully we're going to be doing a lot of against Palace. Been really impressed when she's come on. At the start of the season, I thought Gabby was, our best left back option, but I would start Sandberg. Definitely.
Yeah, I think. Why can't we have both? So I'm assuming that's Gabby at centre back, which means you're dropping one of Millie or Maya. I'll leave that up to you, Michael, who you're playing. Unless you're playing Gabby in midfield, which who knows? Maybe.
Or you could do what I always say and just use the subs bench. Do you know what I mean? This is what I always say, and I know it's a really cop-out answer every time you go, "Oh, who would you start?" I'm like, well, there's this crazy thing where we can make changes during the game, that. I would cop out and give that answer, but I actually won't. I'd actually be going. I think I would actually start Sandberg in this game, which, despite saying I would err on the side of caution and not go into it thinking anything's guaranteed, I do think we need to start looking at, if we want to get these players who at the minute are sort of fringe players or squad players, if you like, if we want to develop them into more consistent first team players, say for instance in the touchwood, just completely random example, if Gabby George were to pick up a knock and be out for a few weeks, then we want Sandberg to be ready to step in and play 90 minutes off WSL on the weekend. And this is a game which is a good opportunity to do that. I've said Palace are a good side, but Anna's a good defender. I don't think that there's stuff that she's going to have thrown at her by Palace that she can't handle. I'm definitely this is going to get clipped up and thrown back at me. But I think that it's a good opportunity for her to get, I think, is it a first WSL start?
Yeah, not her first minutes. It'll be her first start.
Yeah, not her first minutes, but her first WSL start. I think this would be a good opportunity to do that. And it would be nice to see that rotation, see that link up between Anna and maybe if we're starting Galton, Leah Galton, I'd be excited to see more of those two. I think it's a chance to try it. So I'd be rotating that.
Yeah, I tend to agree, actually. That's why I asked the question. To be fair, no one in the chat has disagreed. I think everyone's gone for Anna. I'm not
going to be gutted if I see Gabby starting or anything, because I think she's been fantastic for us. She's a defender that I think we completely can rely on and is great and can get up as well as back. I don't have concern. It's not me saying Sandberg needs to come in for her. It's just it would be nice to see that opportunity for kind of rotation and development. I think it's very nice to be on at least one side of the defense, have this situation where we've actually got two really high quality fit fullbacks, and we can be wow, which fullback do we want to play today?
I think that, well, we definitely don't have that on the other side. I think as Jay's put there, and obviously with Jade being slightly injury prone and the amount of injuries she's picked up, we don't really, and obviously Aoife, whether she's going to be back for Sunday or not, I don't think Mark mentioned that in the press conference earlier, so don't know whether she's going to be available. Jade is back, so Jade will start on the right, but from the left back point of view, it's not. And to be fair, we've paid a lot for both players. I think Gary George was in the 100, I think around the 150 mark. We broke the Swedish record for Sandberg, so like we've paid a lot for two left backs right there. So good options to have. And Gabby did play centre back for the second half against Newcastle when she came on, and Sandberg was the left back. So again, options that maybe we didn't have before. Right, Simon mentioned Galton. I want to kind of branch this out into the wider team in terms of, so George, I'll start with you again first, who you would want to be seeing starting in terms of the wider team. We'd imagine Fallon's going to be back in goal. It's probably going to be the back four that we've just spoken about. But midfield and forwards, who do you want to see where in terms of this one?
Midfield, I would like to see Miyazawa start. I think it's slightly criminal how much she doesn't play. Simic, just going back to if Hayley is leaving, I don't want to just give her minutes because she might be. So I'd probably put Simi in there and then have Clinton with Miyazawa. Right wing for me has to be Jace. Obviously Turlin down the middle. On the left, I don't know what the situation with Bizet is. I'm not sure if she will be.
She'll be in the squad. I don't know whether she's going to be ready to start though. We'll go on the basis that she's available to a point.
Okay. I go back and forth with myself when every lineup comes out with this one. For me, starting on the left is between Mallard and Galton. I want to go for Mallard, just because I'd like to see that partnership build up with Turland in the middle. Jace on the other side. I think, on paper, if I pick our best front three, that is it. With Mallard off the left, Jace off the right, and Turland down the middle. Saying that, I think Galton's been good. I thought she was good against Liverpool. It was Liverpool. But I'm gonna go Mallard is who I would play on the left.
See, I like that. Hinney's definitely a good shout. I think we're a much better team. I think when she's in there. Keris, I'll throw the same question to you before I do this quick question on this one. So I'm going to be torn in between giving an official answer, which is undisclosed. I believe it's around the 200,000 mark.
Yes, the previous Swedish transfer record was, I believe, 150,000 for Hannah Bennison, and it was reported as being, the word used was comfortably more than that. Yeah, so I think,
it's around the 200,000 mark, but obviously officially the fee is not out there. So around that, we'll say on that one. Keris, who do you want to see midfield and forwards?
It's actually getting really difficult because we've got we're in this weird situation where because Tooney's injured, we're seeing more rotation in the midfield, and it's like, whoa, this is scary. And also a lot of our forwards are playing really well, so these are all really nice problems to have. I think Grace Clinton for me, obviously, will be in the starting lineup. I would say, I think I would probably, I'd like to see Simi starting in that defensive midfield role, I think. And then I would have Clinton in that sort of 8. And then I would have Miyazawa in the 10. I've been really impressed with her recently against Liverpool. I thought she was fantastic. I thought her vision and her range of passing is just so good. And she just flies under the radar. Obviously, Turland up top, I would start Jace on the right as well for all the reasons we talked about earlier. Left wing is really difficult for me because I think Galton has been so impressive. I think every time that there's sort of naysayers and doubters around her, whether it's always, is she injured too much? Is she not playing well enough? Is she whatever? Is she this? Is she that? She then goes and pulls a blinder. Her goal against Liverpool last weekend was such an important one in us getting control of the game, and it took a lot of skill. But with that having been said, I think Mallard's earned the opportunity to start. I think she really deserves a start after the cameos that she's put in recently off the bench. she's just been so good. I mean, her goal against Liverpool was even better than Galton's. For me, it was the pick of them. I think technically she's been fantastic. There is even the option, right, of if we decide we actually want to give Turland a bit of a break, say things are going well, touch wood, there's also the option that we rotate Mallard into that striker role, and then we can bring someone else on the left. Like, it gives us that kind of versatility. So I would be starting Mallard on the left, but with a view to potentially, if we want to rest Turland, then Mallard can go up top. We know that she can do that, and then we have the chance to bring on Galton on the wing.
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, I asked the question. I don't even have an answer myself. I think no one said Dom, which I find is interesting because she put one of her best performances in a United shirt in on Sunday. So it's... Neither of you have mentioned her. Not even a name drop. She's just been binned out of the team.
Not because I don't think she's been really good, but because I think it's an opportunity. We've been saying this game, we should see it as an opportunity to give some of those like squad players or bench players, the ones that typically start on the bench, feels demeaning calling them bench players, to give players like Simi Awujo the start, because I think she's really impressed and she's deserved her chance to do that as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I agree with it. I think who put it? Yeah, Erling put that. I think Mark will get the same. So I agree, actually. I think it probably will be the same. But, we've got to do hypotheticals and, who would we put in? Yeah, mine wouldn't be far off what you two have said, to be honest. I think Simi, I'd go Lad, but it's just not going to happen. As I said earlier, Lad, Clinton, Hinney for me, and then Jace, Mallard, Turland would be mine. But I doubt that. I think, Becky, you are right. I don't want to... she's not in. She hasn't been injured. She's just been unwell. So I think from her point of view, she'll be back. But again, how well she is, I don't know. We'll find out on Sunday. So I wouldn't be starting her, I don't think. Get her off the bench or something. Yeah, so we'll see. But, in regards to Dom, I'd be having her at centre-back, as I've said all along. But one can hope. We're not going to see that now. Not with one game of 2024 to go. But we'll see. Yeah, I agree, Truth, in terms of who Dom was up against, but I would still go back to, I think that was her best performance in a United shirt. But, you can only play who you're up against.
Also, Zara Shaw was great. Like, I know she's only 17, so there was a little bit of great for a 17-year-old debutant, but I thought she played really well. So I don't want to mark down Dom's performance based on being up against Shaw, because physically I think it was potentially a slight mismatch. But generally I thought she had a WSL quality opponent up against.
Georgia, is Keris just lagged for you, or is that just me?
No, she has for me.
Okay, I'm glad that wasn't just my internet. I was getting a bit worried, and I thought, if I drop out, this is going to be... Oh, Keris, that was definitely you.
Was that me? Okay, I'm back now anyway. Sorry, this is my parents' living room dodgy Wi-Fi, but I'm here.
Feels a good place to start bringing the show to a close. But I want to. There was a couple of questions for us in the chat very quickly, and I've got a couple of final ones. We need to end the player of the match poll in a second. So if you haven't voted, get your votes on there, because you can't complain if you haven't voted. This was an interesting question, and you've said 64,000. What, I don't know what that is. Is that dollars? I don't know. Anyway, have we missed out? I would suggest not going. This is a really tough one to answer, because have we played better? No, I don't think we have. Are we more balanced? I would argue yes, in the midfield, but not fully, because I just don't think Dom is comfortable there, if I'm being totally honest. So I don't know. My answer is a bit of a cop-out, because I don't think... I've been calling for her not to be starting, but not for the reasons that people think. So I'm glad that she's having this, and I think Mark spoke about it in the press conference earlier, that this has done her good, I think, just having a break from football. It's unfortunate that it's an injury, but actually stepping away from football. But have we been much better because of it? Probably not. But I do think we look better in midfield, if that makes any sense. I don't know whether anyone disagrees or agrees with me on that one.
I think probably the lesson to take from it is that we can rotate without having a huge drop in quality. Like, Tooney's a fantastic player for us. No one needs me to tell them that. I think the thing is that she's been in a situation where, I mean, I can't, the stat about, I'm sure Connor will throw it at me from his massive stat book, but like the stat about however many games she'd started or minutes she'd played before she got injured, like the last time she got a break was God knows when. So hopefully this sort of gives her the opportunity to just reset a bit. And yeah, I think, have we missed her? I don't think we've missed her massively. And that's not to do a disservice to her at all. I think that's more just a credit to the way that the rest of the midfield has stepped up. So hopefully we can continue seeing a bit of rotation and a bit more balance in that sense of just being able to give her a rest.
Yeah, I think that's fair. George, you've got anything to close this conversation off with?
No, I agree with everything you both said. Obviously, we know the player that Toon is, extremely talented player, but I think it's hard to say we've missed her. Not to make that sound too harsh, because I don't think our performance level have dropped. I don't think it's been better either. I think we've sort of just kept on a flat. But like Kara said, I think it's good that it shows that, you know, we don't need Toon to start in every single game, you know, week in, week out, each cup. I know she's been on the wing this season. You know, we have players that can comfortably come in and are perhaps more suited to certain games and certain positions. But hopefully this break will do us some good. Like Kara said, the last time the poor girl had a break from football was literal years ago. So hopefully she'll come back in the new year refreshed and another player we can contend in the midfield with.
Yeah, I think it's not a slight or a negative on her at all to say that our level hasn't necessarily dropped. It's a credit to the rest of the team, and I hope that people can be balanced and view it that way. Like, it's not a criticism on her at all. I think it's just trying to take you never want to see a player be injured, but to take the positives out of a tough situation, she gets a bit of a break, and we learn that she can actually have more voluntary breaks without it massively affecting the team's performances. I think it should be seen as those are two good outcomes that we can take from a difficult situation.
No, I agree. And I think that's it. And that's why I don't mind answering these kind of questions on these shows, because I know that we'll always give the answers. I'm sure people may disagree. That's totally fine. That's the whole reason we do these things. You can fully disagree with everything we've said in the last hour or so if you really want. That's perfectly fine. But yeah, I don't think it's been a massive loss as such, but I just think that's because everyone else has stepped up in that position, which we knew. I've always said this. I think we knew that was always going to be the case. I think. Apologies, you keep seeing me looking at my phone because I've ended the player of the match poll and it's not ended on my YouTube stream I have up. So I'm kind of like trying to find it now and write down these numbers while I'm coming to. Anyway, so I've ended the player of the match poll. Georgia, who was your player of the match for Newcastle? Very quickly before we come to score prediction and wrap this one up.
Emma Watson was mine.
There we go. Short and sweet. Keris?
Yeah, no, I mean, because I don't like attributing a proper player of the match when I didn't watch the whole game. But I will go, the player I was happiest for was Emma Watson because she got her first goal. So I think I'll join Georgia on that. But again, because I didn't watch the whole game, I'd like to always caveat myself when I don't see everything, because I don't like to act like I've seen the whole thing when I haven't.
Well, you both agree, and with me, with 51% of the chat as well, she did win it, which is you might be onto something there, Alan. Because she got the official United one as well. She's not going to be far off. I can't think of other players over the years at United Women that would have been younger than her. So you might be on something there. I'll double check that after the show. She's certainly the youngest All for United WFC player of the match winner, that's for sure. But officially, I don't know. I'll have to double check that. So congrats to Emma. For those wondering, Jay's got 21, Sandberg 16, Mallard 10 out of the percentages for this week. And very quickly, on score predictions for Sunday, where are we all putting our scores?
4-0.
Oh,
Feeling confident.
I'm going to be slightly more pessimistic, and I'm going to say 3-0. Just in case we decide that at the end of a 3-game week, we're going to take off the gas a bit if we've got a decent cushion. But I think we'll be comfortable.
Yeah, it's a good point, to be fair. I'm expecting us to score 6 because we scored 4 on Sunday, 5 on Wednesday, 6 on Sunday. That's what it's got to be now. One up each time.
If you score 6, I think we'll concede 1. I can't tell you why. I literally couldn't tell you why. It's just a hunch. So I'm gonna say it's either 3-0 or it's 6-1.
Our biggest ever win in WSL was 6-0, obviously with Liverpool a few years ago. So we've not scored 6 all that off. Well, once.
Nice. It would be nice to just go back to just scoring loads of goals again. Like that time we put 7 past Everton in what was then the Conti Cup. That was fun. It'd be nice to just do a big win again.
Exactly. Loads of people agreeing with the 4-0. To be fair, 3-0, 3-1. I was expecting these kind of 2 quick 5 goals. Palace, Cromwell, I agree. 3-1, 3-1, 2-0. Yeah, I was going to say earlier, and that's the other way around. I'm always really like thinking about that. Yeah, that's 2-0 Palace that you've written there. But anyway, I know what you meant. And 3-0 as well. Clinton turned and Manners 5-1. I don't think we'll concede. I'm pretty confident of that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens come Sunday. Right, very quickly before we wrap this one up, I wasn't going to ask this, but I am because I know the answer to the second question. As you all know, every time there's a debutant on, we ask a question. And I know the answer, and you can see my face grinning because Michael asked the important question here, Georgia. Particularly the last one. We don't need to look about the first one, it's fine. But the second one, do you want to reveal what your answer is to that?
Privately in our conversations, I was quite confident about my answer. And now I'm going to join the roasting, but I do use a knife and fork. I do. And Disney movie. I like Finding Nemo.
Connor, you're on mute.
I'm on mute all this time. Anyway, the shock I was saying, people can't believe it.
That's unreal. That's actually why you've got Georgia on, isn't it? Literally just so that you've got an ally.
I need to up the numbers of the of the
I can't believe that. That's crazy.
I told you it's growing. It's a movement. We are gaining momentum.
It's not movement.
We're up to 2.
What's a movement?
Exactly. That's more than it was at the start of the year. So there we go. So Michael, that answered your question. I know you were asking that, hoping that I was going to get another person against me, but no. See, I knew that question would come up when when George agreed to come on. But don't take it out with me. No. Well, Georgia might. I don't. I don't do that.
I don't take one with me. No.
If I was in my waitressing job and someone asked for a knife and fork for their burger, I'd say no.
I'd be leaving you a 1-star review then if you were doing that to me. Taking away my pleasure while eating a burger. Can't be having that. This place needs to be quarantined. Well, maybe. Still doesn't make it. Well, honestly, you give it 10 years. Whether I'll still be doing this in 10 years, I don't know. But give it 10 years and there'll be more of us for sure. Because I don't think there's many. I think I found like 4 people in my whole life. And George is one of them. So I don't know. There you go. That's a whole other conversation that I'm sure we'll get onto as we move through it all. But we'll wrap it up there because I believe Keris's tea is nearly ready as well. And it's later than usual because obviously we've started half an hour later for this one. I saw that comment go up before it even came up on the screen. That's a good comment, Hyland. Appreciate that. Anyway, right, we'll round it off there. We'll be back on Monday, 7 o'clock as normal for the match reaction for Palace, the last one of the year, which is a bit sad. The content won't stop after Monday, obviously over Christmas and stuff like that. Barry's Christmas show is coming up soon for those of you excited for that. If any of you have watched his Christmas crackers for the last 2 years, they were brilliant. And for those of you who were taking part, but obviously looking at the advent calendars that we've been doing each day, Barry, it won't surprise you, has been writing all the puns for those. And some of them were brilliant. Today's one, which I've not even revealed who it was yet, but I think it's pretty obvious, was very good. There's a little bit in the middle of that sentence that kind of gives it away rather than the Norway bit. So yes, that's quite good. So is that for you by any chance? Right, Right, so we're going to round it off there. Make sure you're following Keris, obviously, and All for United WFC, and everything on every social. We're All for United WFC and everything. Make sure you're liking this video, subscribing. Jordan, thank you very much for coming on. Fantastic debut, as I kind of thought it would be, and hopefully not the last we see of you on these things. But yeah, hopefully we all enjoy Sunday, a nice, easy game, and everything else, and we'll be back to discuss it all on Monday night. Cheers, all. Have a good weekend.